West Asia. And Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, issued a strong warning saying that any US military action in the region could spark a wider war. Khamenei stressed that Americans often talk about war, aircraft carriers and planes, claiming that all options are on the table, including military force. He warned that if the US strikes, the consequences would spread beyond Iran and affect the entire region. And at the same time, Khamenei addressed that recent anti-government protests inside Iran, describing them as akin to a coup. He said protesters attacked police, government offices and religious sites, and added that the coup attempt was quickly suppressed, ensuring the stability of the Iranian government. Let's listen in.
اینی هم که میبینید گاهی صحبت جنگ میکنن که ما نمیدونم با فلان جور هواپیما با چه میاییم چنین میکنیم. اینم جدید نیست. در گذشته هم آمریکایی‌ها بارها در حرفهای خودشون تهدید میکردن که همه گزینه‌ها روی میز است. همه گزینه‌ها یعنی از جمله گزینه جنگ. این همیشه میگفتن دیگه. همه گزینه‌ها روی میز. حالا این آقا هم همینطور مرتباً ادعا میکنه ولی ما ناو آوردیم و چه کردیم. به نظر من ملت ایران رو از این چیزا نباید ترسوند. ملت ایران تحت تأثیر این حرفا قرار نمیگیره. از برخورد حق نمیهراسه. ما شروع کننده نیستیم. ما به کسی ظلم نمیخوایم بکنیم. به کشوری حمله نمیخوایم بکنیم. اما در مقابل اون کسی که طمع داشته باشه حمله بخواد بکنه، اذیت بکنه، ملت ایران مشت محکمی به او خواهد زد.
Iran's supreme leader there signaling that any direct US strike on Iran would cause a wider implications for the Middle East. Joining us now is Sol Sadker, a political commentator, to discuss this further. He joins us live from Tel Aviv. Sol, thank you very much for joining us. Given that Iran has said that Israel and other US bases in the Middle East will be a legitimate target if the United States does strike Iran, is the Ayatollah wrong in claiming that this will indeed spark a much wider regional conflict if Donald Trump does decide to take military action on Tehran?
I've no doubt at all, Thomas, that they would absolutely love to start a regional war. They have, after all, been building up proxies for that exact purpose for 40 years. But as we've seen over the past 2 years, those proxies have largely failed to perform. They cannot stand against the might and precision of Western weapons. They have been digging, for example, large networks of tunnels that they use to hide their missiles. And yet those tunnel systems are only as good and as well hidden as their entrances. Apart from anything else, they're completely infiltrated in every level by Western spies. They really have no way to create such a regional war. The desire to have a regional war needs to be met with the ability. They certainly may have the desire, but the ability is not there. And if I was them, I certainly wouldn't be going around saber-rattling when Donald Trump is in the White House. I don't think he will take too kindly to that. And if anything, it will just encourage him to attack them more.
So you're saying, Sol, that Iran is not capable today of striking Israel compared to relying on proxies like Hezbollah, Hamas and regional militias?
No, I wouldn't go that far. They certainly are capable of striking Israel. We saw over the 12 days of that war in June that they managed to reach Israel with approximately 600 missiles, about 10% of which actually landed. None of them were sufficiently accurate to cause any strategic damage. If they really want to start a war, it's not good enough for them to fire huge missiles, and for every 20 they fire, they will on average kill one civilian. That simply won't do it, because it means if they fire off their entire arsenal of perhaps 2,000 remaining, if they were able to do that, which they probably aren't, because their missiles will largely be destroyed on the ground as they were the first time round, then what are they going to do? They're going to kill 50, 100 Israeli civilians. That's not really a war. That's a tragedy, but that's the end of the Iranian regime. Once those missiles are gone, they really lost their final weapon. There's nothing left for them at that point. So they have to be very careful about using their final weapons. It's really a chess game, and they are really in a very tight spot.
And Saul, Khamenei has called these protests, in which killed about over 6,500 people. Some human rights organizations suggest. Do you think Israel sees this growing internal instability inside of Iran as weakening the regime or making it more dangerous?
Well, this is a very good question. First of all, I've heard far higher numbers than 6,500. I've heard up to 40.
We can't confirm it yet, Saul. That's the thing.
But yeah, there are 6,500 that are confirmed with names, but certainly there are far more than that. But the main issue is, yes, so on the one hand, they are weakened. They're severely weakened. They don't have control of their own population. They are infiltrated in every level with spies, and satellites and drones are monitoring their every move from above. They don't have control of their own airspace, and they haven't for 8 months. So they're very, very weak. But at the same time, when someone is very, very weak, they become essentially a cornered bear, and a cornered bear can be very dangerous. And the question is that if the Iranian regime are under the impression that their regime is about to fall, will they throw everything they have at their enemies? Some kind of final battle. We know that they probably have stockpiles remaining from the Iran-Iraq war of chemical weapons. This would be a horrifying escalation to see such a thing happen.
And
my guess is...
Yeah, sorry. Apologies for interruption. We saw the supreme leader there speaking in front of a huge crowd, of course, as per usual. Do you think he's speaking more to Washington, to Israel, or his own domestic audience here? Of course, only subject to state media in these times.
It's a good question. My guess is that he's primarily speaking to his own people. He wants to give them an impression of bluster, to give the people encouragement that really they have the upper hand against America. If he is speaking, if he thinks he's speaking to the Americans, then he's really completely out of touch. So probably he's well aware that he's speaking to the people. He's well aware that he knows that the Americans know that his regime is incredibly weak. So it can't really be for the Americans, unless the other possibility is, of course, that he simply is not in touch with the reality on the ground, that he is surrounded by yes men who are feeding him false information about his personal strength.
Okay, Saul, thank you very much for joining us. Do stay with us as we move on to our next